Green Bay Packers mandatory minicamp is here just 1 week after finishing OTAs. The Packers head into 3 days of mandatory minicamp. So, of course, we have some highlights from today's practice from the warm-up sessions, including a very interesting potential position change for a player moving from offense to defense, which is very, very intriguing. More on that here in a bit. Also, a big shout out to all the Packers media members that are at practice today, recording these clips, doing a great job taking notes on everything that happens in practice. I'm going to link all their Twitter accounts down in the description below. Make sure to go give them a follow there over on X. Also, if you guys want to stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers this offseason, highlights and takeaways from every single practice that's open to the media, you'll find it here on this channel. We have 3 days of mandatory minicamp. I'm not sure if all days are open to the media. It might just be 2 of them. But if it's all 3 or just 2, you'll see highlight videos, takeaway videos from the practices. You'll find it all here on this channel. So if that does interest you, go down and hit the subscribe button. All right, so without further ado, let's dive into the clips. So day 1 of Packers mandatory minicamp has begun. And unlike OTAs, this is mandatory, as it stated in the title, where OTAs were voluntary. And important note today, as we see the linemen kind of going through some warm-up drills here, is no players are absent. Obviously, the Packers released Jaire Alexander yesterday. That was a potential player that maybe would have been absent, even though it was reported that he would have reported, but that's all in the past now. But Elgton Jenkins is present at this practice, and some of the players that are here but not practicing are as follows: Quay Walker, Micah Robinson, Kalen King, who's now in a cast on his right arm. That's unfortunate news. Zane Anderson, Colin Oliver, Aaron Banks, Elgton Jenkins, John Williams, Christian Watson, and Julian Hicks. And as I stated in that list, Elgton Jenkins is here at practice, as you see here in this clip, just not in any of his Packers, gear in terms of helmet. He's not practicing today, simply just on the sideline with the players, but he is here. And Gutekunst also mentioned that they already used some of the money that was created yesterday by releasing Jaire Alexander, so maybe it was a extension or a contract adjustment for Elgton Jenkins, and that's why he's here today. And if they maybe didn't get that done, he wouldn't have showed up. So look for that transaction news a little bit later. Of course, it'll be here as a video update on this channel, so be on the lookout for that. But Elgton Jenkins is here. And also, before the Packers went outside in the Don Hutson Center, we have a clip of Christian Watson throwing a medicine ball there. This is 6 months post ACL surgery. And man, he looks way ahead of schedule. I know we've said this before, and I don't want to get caught in that groove of saying a player is going to return a lot sooner than we all expect. There's a lot of offseason to go. He's simply just warming up here, but it's great to see. It's at least positive, right? You see him moving around out here. 6 months post-torn ACL is very impressive, and hopefully Christian Watson can return sooner than we're all expecting. And you see Matthew Golden to the left of him there, likely going to, take his snaps early on this season. But the thought of both of them in this offense, Christian Watson and Matthew Golden, and the just tremendous amount of speed that would give the Packers on this offense. Very, very excited for that. All right, so now to the most intriguing and interesting news from today's practice and highlights. It's this player right here in the white. Usually the defenders wear the dark jerseys, as you see the 2 other cornerbacks here on the left and the right. And the player in the middle wearing white, if you didn't notice already, is Bo Melton. So the Packers are potentially switching Bo Melton to cornerback to maybe help with the lack of depth. I know this is pretty funny to hear a day after releasing Jaire Alexander, and it feels very Packers-esque to release Jaire Alexander and then the very next day in practice switch a wide receiver to cornerback. But at the end of the day, Gutekunst said that he's been impressed with Bo Melton's play on special teams as a gunner, which, making tackles, getting by defenders. Obviously, his brother Max Melton was drafted, I believe, in the 2nd round of last year's NFL draft at cornerback. Bo Melton also played cornerback in high school. Now, he played both sides of the ball, as do a lot of players that ended up in the NFL. They played both sides of the ball in high school. But he does have some experience doing it, and it does run in the family. And I believe he has like a 9.7 RAS at cornerback as well, if that means anything. With the wide receiver room as loaded as it is right now, Bo Melton might not make the 53-man roster as a wide receiver. He might have a better course to the roster as a cornerback now that we see and got the update that Kalen King has a cast on his right arm. Will he be ready for training camp, right? We just cut Jaire Alexander. Bo Melton could make this switch work. Now, of course, if Bo Melton does end up making the roster as a cornerback, he's primarily going to be a special teams player anyways, which is what he already does. But the Packers are lacking depth at corner. We let go of Eric Stokes, brought in Nate Hobbs, but we also let go of Corey Ballantyne. Now, we did draft Micah Robinson there in the 7th round, and maybe he will replace Corey Ballantyne's snaps because he did see defensive snaps last year, Ballantyne that is. But maybe Bo Melton fights for that spot. We've also heard great things of Kamal Haddon taking some first-team reps during OTAs. Excited to see him during these mandatory minicamp practices and then into training camp. But honestly, Bo Melton very well could turn this into something that gets him on the 53-man roster. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. I know, again, it's pretty funny that a day after releasing Jair Alexander, we have Bo Melton playing cornerback at practice. It is pretty funny, but at the same time, it's intriguing, and it could be his route to the roster. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Here we have a quick clip of Packers running back Marshon Lloyd, their 3rd round draft selection from last year's draft out of USC. Started OTAs on the injury report, but then the second OTA practice open to the media, he returned to practice and he looked good out there. I think LaFleur basically said it was a small injury, nothing crazy, but obviously there are a lot of concerns with Marshon Lloyd staying healthy. He couldn't stay healthy all of last season after seeing limited snaps week 2 and then, getting a plethora of different injuries throughout the season. And I'm really hoping he can stay healthy here in year 2. It can be a big year for Marshon Lloyd. He's a guy that could step into a running back number 2 role. I think he has the most ceiling out of our backup running backs. Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, 2 great backup running backs to have in their own ways. But Marshon Lloyd truly can become a dangerous running back number 2. And I think he honestly has the talent to eventually become a starting running back in the NFL, maybe a couple years down the line after Josh Jacobs' time here in Green Bay. But that's far down the line. First, we got to worry about Marshon Lloyd simply just staying healthy, and hopefully he does. I also have a tweet update real quick just on the whole Bo Melton situation as I'm making this video as the team sessions of practice are ongoing, and that you can't record videos during team sessions. So if you're ever wondering why we don't have like the 11v11 clips, not my fault. Ask the Packers. They don't allow you to record that type of stuff. But it says we have a green penny for Bo Melton when he's on defense now. So he's taking reps on offense and defense, right? Who needs Travis Hunter when you got Travis Hunter at home and Bo Melton? He's on defense, and he actually trailed Jaden Reed pretty well down the seam. So he's covering up Jaden Reed in practice. This is crazy. What is going on right now? We quite literally have Melton switching on both sides of the football. He had a tackle. Obviously, it's half speed on Tucker Kraft by Bo Melton. Then he had a catch from Jordan Love right after that. Also, since I stated it earlier that the Packers likely will be making a transaction today, just got an update on that. The Packers are taking on Jair Alexander's full dead cap hit this year instead of spreading it out with a traditional post-June 1st designation. That's what Gutekunst was referencing. According to Over the Cap, that number is $17 million cap hit. So instead of splitting that between this year and next year, they're taking on that entire dead cap hit as if it was a pre-June 1st cut this year to then have more cap room for the next season, kind of signaling that the Packers likely aren't going to be bringing in a big trade name like a Trey Hendrickson and giving him a mega extension. Not that I think that was a possibility, but more so that the Packers are willing to eat that money right here, year 1 for Jair, and have more money next year when they'll need it. And to wrap things up, we also have a clip of Brian Gutekunst speaking on the Jair Alexander release for the first time. Here it is.
Yeah, I think obviously we've done that for the past few years, and it hasn't really worked out for us. I think as we went through it, was just something, we looked at a lot of different angles, what might be right for the club, and this is kind of where we ended up. But again, it was no bad blood. It's just kind of one of those things where over the last couple of years, it hasn't worked out exactly like the ones through no fault of anybody, just the injuries kind of,
So basically, Gutekunst is saying what we've all been saying regarding the Jair Alexander release is that availability is the best ability, and injuries simply just took over the past few years. And the amount of money that they were paying for Jair was just way too much based on what they were getting in return. And Gutekunst, pretty much mentioned that they've done it in the past with Bakhtiari, keeping him around pretty much, 3 years or so after the ACL. And they've been burned by it before. So they decided to cut ways before, extending that any further. So those are all the clips I have from day 1 of Packers mandatory minicamp. Again, there's 2 other practices tomorrow and Thursday. I'm not sure sure if both or just one are open to the media, but again, be on the lookout for all videos, all updates for the Green Bay Packers this offseason here on this channel. I'll be releasing a key notes and takeaways, which will include all the notes and takeaways from team sessions, which is ongoing as I'm recording this video, later in a couple hours once practice is over. So also be on the lookout for that video. Really appreciate you guys coming by. Again, hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers this offseason. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go